Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer at Extravagant Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Monday, the 10th of March. So where are we? Well, there's a lot of red on the screen. There is some very big moves today. Where are we in terms of, could we basically start to get to a better place in terms of seasonality and this market finally, maybe making a bottom to the downside? I don't know. That's basically that's basically the conclusion of this video that I'm giving you right away. I'm going to go through some levels to watch and so forth, but we really kind of got hit hard, especially in growth stocks. I've been talking about now for a couple weeks that I think that the AI trade is being unwound. All not only just the AI trades, but most of growth is basically just getting unwound, and value stocks are outperforming. But today was one of those situations where volatility came in across the board and took down those value stocks too, which is often the case. For a little while, you can kind of hide out in some of these areas that are going to be outperforming. Last week, I talked about like low volatility stocks like the SPLV ETF, USMV was another one. But ultimately, if there's big volatility that hits the market, then usually even those hiding places get taken out too. So I will go through some levels, and again, this video is not going to be like all of a sudden like a light bulb is going to go off and like, oh, the bottom, you're going to see like, oh, the bottom is in. It's really not going to be that type of conclusion, I think, in this video. But I think we're starting to check more of the boxes, especially today with some of the names that got really hit. The issue that I found is I just didn't find a lot of things, even though we bounced off the lows. I'm not finding a ton of stocks that are setting up. So I will go through some of those stocks and I'll give you some examples. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer there. But I would love to say like, hey, we've got a tradable bottom, and you could put money to work. And bottom line is if you're a long-term investor, you could do that always. And your 401k plan or your IRA should be, buying incrementally, because it is very tough to understand like when we're going to get that actual bottom. So that said, let's talk about, what we saw today in terms of the down move, as well as, where we are. So today's Monday, and we are going to have a bunch of events this week, which could also help, or they could hurt, depending on how these events come out. What I'm referring to is tomorrow, you're going to get small business optimism, JOLTS, jobs openings. We're also going to get 3 bond auctions this week. But what I'm kind of looking forward to is till Wednesday and Thursday. You're going to get the CPI that comes out. They're looking for 0.3. So inflation definitely present, for month over month. We'll have to see how these numbers come out. It would be great if we started to see inflation start to tick down. I think that you're eventually going to see that. And my guess is that what this administration is trying to do with all these, with even though some people think tariffs are inflationary and so forth, but if you are really taking demand out of the country, and if people are going to have a knee-jerk reaction and not spend as much, that's going to bring inflation down one way or another. And if we do get people are starting to talk more and more about a possible soft patch or even a recession, that will also knock inflation down. The question is that going to show up yet? I don't know. Last Friday we had the jobs report, and I don't think I think that's still backward looking, and it is. All of these economic reports are going to be a little bit late. You're not going to get like what's exactly happening today. You may get what was happening a couple weeks ago. So that said, I don't know if we're going to see that, data soften, or the softening of some things yet in the CPI report, but I think it could be pivotal for the week. And then of course we're also going to get University of Michigan sentiment numbers, which have also triggered some volatility too. I mentioned bond auctions just so that you could see what I'm referring to, so I can kind of prepare you a little bit for the week. Tomorrow we're going to get a 3-year bond auction. Then on Wednesday you're going to get a 10-year bond auction, and then on Thursday you're going to get the 30-year bond auction. All right, so that may provide some bond volatility. So a couple of things that I've drawn in here. Well, or basically I've drawn a channel in here. That will become more apparent once I bring up the 1 hour chart, but we're into some support. The question is support going to hold? Now, a lot of people, of course, look at the 200-day moving average, which we've blown right past, right? And every time that we get to one of these levels of interest, that's or support level, that's basically it. It's a level of interest. It is supposed to be something that buyers are going to say, hey, we're down to the 200-day moving average. I'm going to start buying. It's a good level for me. We didn't really see that on Friday. Well, Friday we did rebound, but today we had another swoosh lower. So, that did not work, as well as, going back to where we were a couple of weeks ago with the 50-day moving average too. We went right past the 50-day moving average. So this is, what we're looking at here, and this is up on the weekly chart too, right? This is the value area for the year. So for me, this is something that I really want to see hold this week. If not, we know that we've got more pain, to come, and because that will trigger the bearish 80% rule, which could possibly be looking for a move all the way down to the bottom of value by the end of the year. Again, too early to say that because we're just Monday, and I don't know how this candle is going to develop here on the daily chart. But yes, I would like to see price hold this 561.37 level. All right, so that's the daily chart. Let me go to the 1 hour chart because I think the 1 hour, this is one of the reasons why I use multiple time frame analysis. What do you notice with this 1 hour chart? And I've kind of like you should be able to answer this because I've drawn some dotted lines in here. But we're just moving in a downward channel. And every time we get to the top of the channel, we stall. Right. So we're making a lot of series of lower highs. And we're also making lower lows as well. So we're moving in this downward channel. Notice where we got to at the end of the day, right? So we took out this virgin point of control, which is where a lot of buyers and sellers previously have come and met up. And we're holding, we have a nice, on the 1 hour chart, a nice bullish and I thought it's almost bullish engulfing. I thought it was, but I don't think it is. Regardless, it's a nice reversal bar off that. So maybe we can start heading back up. But even if we do, the thing that you have to realize is we're still in this channel, right? Really, like we had a chance to kind of do it, where we closed on Friday. And if we would have opened up and went higher on Monday, that means we're breaking the channel to the upside, right? And that's kind of gives you a sense that the short-term trend is changing. Short-term trend is not changing here. We just may have hit a level where it might be of interest, and it could be a place that we have a bounce for tomorrow, maybe Wednesday too. But resistance is about 1.8% higher here, up at 571.38, which is essentially kind of like where we started for the week. So that's the playbook. That's the levels that we have, short-term levels to keep an eye on. And I would basically watch this VPOC. If we break back below it, that answers your question that this volatility is not over. Let's talk a little bit about the VIX too, because we did hit a high of 29.56. So, maybe a little bit of fear. I've been complaining about that. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I've been complaining that we haven't had any major fear. People have been quoting things like the CNN Fear and Greed Index, which I think I don't use that. I use things like the NIMO and the NAMO, the McClellan oscillator, to tell me if we're at oversold levels. I'll have to check to see where that is once we close, or once that number's published. I don't have that number yet. But also I like to see like the equity put call ratio spike. And we haven't seen that either. There's been a whole bunch of a whole bunch of posts going around about how many puts are trading in SPY. Okay, that's fine, but why aren't you looking at the calls? And it's an understanding too that people are going to trade those index options, both calls and puts, when there's a lot of volatility, not necessarily fear. I'm going to say that again. Because it's a very important point. I spoke about it last week too. But just because there's a record level of puts being traded and calls being traded in SPY, it doesn't mean that there's fear necessarily, but it does mean that there's probably volatility. And we do have volatility, right? And also, you can't compare these things to 5 years ago, because 5 years ago, there wasn't zero zero-day expiration options in indices either. So of course there's going to be record type of options with today's volatility because there's different products than there was 5 years ago or whenever they came up with zero-day options. I don't think it's been 5 years ago, but you can go and check that on your own if you like. So here's the chart of the VIX. What I like to see is would be like a full uh, you know, where we went higher in the VIX like we did today, which was almost up to 30, and then we really backed off. We backed off a little bit. So again, I can't really make a hard conclusion, right? Again, I would love to say, oh, that's it. That's a great candle. So I'm not as excited as I would want to be. Even though we did bounce at some technical levels, we just bounced at the bottom of the channel. All right. So here's the cues. And again, it's not to say like at any point things could change and the bottom could be in, but you know, we need more information. Here's the cues, right? And I'm going to start with the 1 hour chart here too. Yes, we've got multiple version point of controls, and I was saying this around lunchtime. I'm like, damn, we came really close to taking this out, and we didn't. And I was like, my guess is that this gets taken out. Right, here's what I'm referring to. This candle went right down here and didn't take it out. So let me just try to zoom in one more time here. We almost took it out, and then we took this one out, and then the next one we took the following one out. Now we went a little bit lower, which sometimes happens, but you could see we're trying to hold in here where there's been a lot of volume before that we haven't revisited. And again, I have to go back pretty far to see these. Let's see if, all the way back in here. But the market remembers this stuff. But you could see each one of these 1 hour VPOCs, we've kind of paused a little bit and bounced, right? Pause, bounce, pause, bounce, pause, bounce, right? So we could get another one here, but it doesn't mean that it's going to change the trend, right? So especially two of them being taken out, I think that we bounce here after today's move, but I don't know if the lows are in. So that's my take. And again, like if you went long today, like maybe if we rally in the overnight session or rally a little bit tomorrow to have some type of a turnaround Tuesday, I would be a seller into that bounce because like I said, I'm not sure that the low is in at this point, even though we had some a heck of a move, and I'll start to go over some of the percentages. Sorry, let me go back to Qs because I didn't do the daily chart here, but Qs we took out a VPOC to the downside here too on the daily chart. So again, a logical place for us to bounce. But again, these are reference points. We've got to see buyers pick up the pace and start to overwhelm the sellers. And we don't know if we're going to have that yet. All right, so that's cues. Look at how far we have broken below the 200-day moving average at this point. So again, this would be an area that we could bounce, but now you've got to worry about the top of value, which we could come up and we could get a possible scenario here is we could come up and we could get rejected here and then begin to head back lower. So you want to be cognizant of that. IWM, which has looked like a mess, continues to move lower. Here's a good example of pausing. We paused at this VPOC for about 3 or 4 days, no bounce. We also didn't get back above the 5-period moving average. By the way, and you can look at that with the S&P and the Qs too. I'm not going to rehash all of that, but we're just descending below this 5-period moving average, which in my opinion is really good because it will tell you if the sellers are in control. Or when we're above the 5-period moving average, that's when the buyers are in control. Right now, the sellers are in control. Make no mistake. Bearish 80% rule is still in play, looking for a move from this side of the value area to this side, right? And that's about another 5.7% down. So that's something that I would be cognizant of, be aware of in the small caps. So I mentioned, I mean, I was pretty astounded at what was happening today in terms of the growth and momentum trade. All right, so here and really a growth and the AI trade. Take a look at what happened with the I call them grade 8 because I add in Netflix, I think, which people don't use for the Mag 7, but whatever, 7 or 8 names. But I mean, at one point you had Apple down over 5.5%. Amazon actually rebounded, I think, the best out of this group, but down 2.4, 2.3, and that was at one point down over 3.5%. Meta down 4.4%. Meta's given back. So we can look at some of these charts, but I mean, does this to you look like the bottom is in? Is this like a major reversal bar? I don't think so. I mean, it may be a hammer bar. We know that it's way below the 5 period moving average and can bounce, but usually what we want to see when the market has a day like this is that you want to see some single stocks acting better. And in the growth area, I really don't see that. Here's Amazon, trying to hold up, try to rebound. But again, it's not a green candle. Maybe it's a hammer bar. Watch this 196 level, right? Obviously Tesla really got hit hard. I mean, full red bar. I mean, does that look like the bottom is in for Tesla? I mean, it's nice to see these VPOCs being taken out, but no rebound whatsoever in Tesla today. What about names like Palantir, right? Which is also growth and AI, took out a downside VPOC, so we'll see if that holds. But that's closed barely off the lows. Then you go through like the software space. Like look at Team, for example. Do you think that that's a reversal? Do you think that that's a great looking bar and acted well? No. I mean, to me, this another, that's the third nasty move down. Now, is it short term oversold? Yes, it's short term oversold, but that's not buyers coming back in and saying, oh, geez, it's down 3 big days and I'm coming in to buy it. That's not what I'm seeing in a lot of growth charts. And like I said, I think that the value stuff, like I was looking at McDonald's earlier. McDonald's went higher, but did not close, close higher. One name that I'm still holding is Chesapeake Software, because it is lower volatility. Heck of a candle on Friday, and it held in here. So for now, I'm holding it. I know a lot of people, a lot of like growth traders are looking at Uber. It's holding in here, but do you think buyers really came in and said, "Hey, I'm buying. This is a great buy. I'm buying this." I don't think so. I mean, it just barely, it closed off the lows, but none of these stocks are really, for the most part, for growth is not taking back. Like, there wasn't like and I've seen that before when the indices are still going down, you start to see some reversal bars in growth stocks. And I'm not seeing that, so I think I think that there's still cause for concern. Like here's my watch list to start the week. Sure, like TGTX did okay. 3M is another one, but again, like I don't know if I could buy 3M here. Um, as well as deer. Okay, so green bar, but it's got overhead, it's got resistance, and it did not close inside the value area for the day. Maybe it did just slightly. 147.29. Deer is the one that everybody's, uh, you know, it did not take out these highs yet. You've got a little bit of a RSI divergence there. For me, I would be taking the money and running if you were trading it, after a nice move like this. But I could be wrong with Deere. We'll see if it holds in here and maybe watch this 50-day moving average. Sorry, 20-day moving average first just to see if it holds. A few other names too that I thought were like Celsius was acting well. I mentioned McDonald's already. Um, but yeah, there's not a lot. I mean, let's also look at some areas that outperformed. The housing group did okay today. They finished only down 1/3%, which so that's I guess relative strength considering that SPY was down 2.7%. But I think that's mostly interest rates. I think you're getting an interest rate effect here as TLT was up 1% today. So I think that's what's going on here. I'm not certain that, DHI was doing very well in the morning. Oops, it's the wrong stock. Let's try this again. DHI. But again, it didn't close anywhere near its highs for the day. And it did not make it into its value area. So again, I wish that I could be a bit more positive. Just bring this up one more time here. But look at software was down 5%, cyber stocks down 4%. I was even looking at the cyber group today because of this outage that happened with Twitter today and a couple of the other um, social media social media companies too. But like, look at cyber, right? CyberArk had good earnings. again, taking out a VPOC, but does this look like buyers came in and swarmed and came in and supported this name? I don't think so. Fortinet closed right around the lows. Now again, downside VPOC being taken out. So again, that could be like the bottom, and the bottom may be in here at this VPOC, but I can't. That's a complete guess. The bar on Friday was so much better, and that didn't hold. So I think that we're going to need some more time. That's my personal opinion, based on some of the candles for today. Oracle reported after the close. Let's see where this is trading. Like, so if this happens to like go green and stay green, then I think that would be good. But you could see it can't even get into the value area. So that would also be a good sign to say, oh, Oracle's up 4 or 5%, and then it continues to go up higher after the open tomorrow, instead of like getting sold, instead of strength getting sold, like we saw in Broadcom, for example. Broadcom I thought was a good, even though I left early on Friday, but Broadcom I thought was a pretty good tell. Had a great report, and look at what happened to it. It almost went all the way back to where it was. Now it bounced at the end of the day on Friday, but look at it. It is back to where it was. So nobody wants these stocks right now, right? They're basically telling you that this AI trade is getting unwound, as well as all of the high premium growth stocks are getting unwound, right? And that's a situation when sometimes stocks go farther than they should, right? Reddit is a good example, right? And I know like Zero Hedge has been talking about Reddit, saying it was a super expensive stock. Look at what happens to Reddit, right? And again, do you think that that's a great looking candle for the day? Now, again, it's a notable place where it stopped, I think right at its 200-day moving average, but buyers didn't come in and support this. So, I mean, and this is still an expensive stock from like a price to sales type situation. So, once this, stocks can get expensive and more expensive, but once the momentum leaves, right, and sellers start to come in, it's good night, after, where names just went too far. I mean, look at this. It is still holding. Like, this Reddit is at $110. So on a relative, if you look back to where we were September, the stock was at $60. It's still up from where it was last fall, right? But it just went up like crazy. There's no way that the stock should have been trading at over $200. Um, the valuations were sky high. So even now, it's still above where it was. You could argue that this stock, even going down from 230 down to 110 in a couple weeks, is probably still expensive. So that's also some of the thought process. So I would say be patient. Again, if you're playing for a short-term bounce, okay, that and versus some of the lows for today, I don't see anything really like that wrong with it, but I would not overstay your welcome if you do get a little bit of a bounce. All right, guys, that is it for the video today. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.